My name is Jared Padilla. This is my student choice speech, which is going to be about Alexander Hamilton in the first person. All right. Um, First of all, I want to say good afternoon. It's supposed to be ladies and gentlemen, but the lady's not here. My name is Alexander Hamilton, and I'd like to give you a brief bibliography about myself. First off, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to learn about someone that had a great deal in the founding of our country, which we call America. Most likely to your surprise, I'm not an American-born citizen. I was actually born on an island called Nevis, which is in the Caribbean. I have a picture here to show you where that island is. It's southeast of Puerto Rico. If you guys like to look at that, you can. I had a pretty tough childhood. My mother actually had a family before I was born. And my father found out about this later on during their marriage, and he left her because back in that era, in those days, if you had a family before, you were considered pretty much a whore, and you had this scarlet letter on your chest. And so my father found out about this and left myself and my brother just with my mother, and we had to pretty much live our lives without a father. At the age of 10, my wife contracted yellow fever, and she died. So I had to look for work with me and my brother, just the two of us taking care of each other. I found a company on the island of Nevis where I was from called Beckman and Cougar. It was a wholesale export firm on the island of Nevis. Would be an import and export at a pretty much a port where we would take goods in and send goods out. Eventually, the owner, Cougar, died, and Beckman pretty much put me in charge of the whole firm. So I was around 15 years old when this happened. So I was managing, accounting, and dealing with all the transactions within this port. Being recognized by many influential and prominent men in America for doing this because they would trade within our port. They actually gave me a sponsor, kind of like a scholarship to go to America and go there to study medicine, and come back to Nevis and be a doctor at Nevis. But I didn't want to do that on the island of Nevis. I was sent to King's College, which is now Columbia University in New York City, and to study medicine, but I didn't want to do that, so I actually became swept up by the politics and the upcoming war between England and the 13 colonies. So I wanted to fight on the battlefields and in column the newspapers to prove my loyalty to the New World that stood right for freedom and to stop tyranny and oppression from the dictatorship of the Royal Crown. My first action, I created a New York volunteer militia called the Hearts of Oak, which was included other King's College students and myself. We started our own little militia. Soon after, we successfully raided British cannons and captured them. As a result of that, the Hearts of Oak became an artillery company thereafter. Through my connections with influential New York patriots such as Alexander McDougall and John Jay, I raised a New York provincial company of artillery. I later aided General Washington in swift retreats, and in doing so I was recognized by him and asked to become an aide-de-camp for him. This is one job I didn't like, but when you're asked by the commanding general of the whole army, you have to take the job. This and other duties would go on for 4 years. One duty was being General Washington's chief of staff. I handled many letters to Congress, state governors, and other powerful generals in the Continental Army. I drafted many of Washington's orders and letters I even issued orders to Washington through Washington with my own signature. I was involved widely in very high-level duties, including intelligence, diplomacy, negotiation with senior Army officials, officers, as Washington's adversary. During this time, I met Elizabeth Sawyer. She was the daughter of a wealthy landowner in New York. We were married only 4 months after we met. Elizabeth gave me 8 children: Philip and Alicia, James, John, Alexander, William, Elysia, and Philip. The last Philip was born to replace the first Philip because my first son died in a duel. I would soon become to the reality that this is not the life quest for me, and would ask General Washington to be assigned back to the fighting ranks. After one final battle at the Siege of Yorktown, I would retire and get back to the other battle of politics. I would first need to know law before I could become a politician. After only six short months, I accomplished the feat that would take an ordinary man 3 to 4 years to become a lawyer. As soon as I earned my law degree, I served as an assemblyman for the New York County and New York State Legislature, and was the first delegate chosen for the Continental Convention. My goal of strong national government was always put down by my fellow delegates, John Lansing and Robert Yates of New York. Soon after, I was the only delegate representing my home state of New York, and the only delegate to ratify the Constitution. As you can see right here, this is the signature page of the actual Constitution. I was the only delegate to sign from New York. In 1783, I resigned my position as a delegate for New York in Congress. In 1789, General Washington became president and appointed me the first United States Treasury. With a massive debt from the Revolutionary War and a lot of hard work ahead of me, I issued 3 controversial reports to Congress aimed at strengthening national government first, favoring funding for federal deficit at part, and assuming state debts to help establish national credit, and the second was to compose a national bank, and the third was never enacted. 2 of my major opposers to these decisions were Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. Both of these men were later run for presidency, and Thomas Jefferson won due to me slandering Aaron Burr, which he was at one time the vice president, in the tabloids, which was the newspapers back in the day, because he was the only running for president for power and money, but Jefferson was not. Aaron Burr was appealed by my actions, but he wouldn't be the last time we had a bad argument and damaged my reputation. One other gentleman by the name of Reynolds, I became involved in an affair with Maria Reynolds that badly damaged my reputation. Reynolds' husband James blackmailed me for money by threatening me to inform my wife. When James Reynolds was arrested for counterfeiting money, he contacted several prominent members of the Democratic Republican Party, most notably James Monroe and Aaron Burr, threatening to expose a top-level official for corruption. So they pretty much accused me of cheating on my wife, and then I was paying him with money from the United States Treasury for sexual favors from this lady, which after an investigation I was found to not use any money from the United States Treasury, and I was using my own funds to pay her for sexual favors. I wouldn't let this happen. After he was I wouldn't let this happen in New York because Aaron Burr actually ran for governor in New York State, and I slandered him again in the newspapers, and he asked me to rebut my statements and apologize to him through the columns, and I refused. By him doing that, by me not apologizing for the slandering words in the paper, he actually challenged me to a duel, which I didn't believe in because my son Paul died from the first duel, so I didn't believe in dueling. You couldn't duel in New York State, so we went across the Manhattan River, and we dueled in New Jersey, which was the only dueling grounds where you could duel legally. Since I didn't want to do the duel at all or be in any part of it, I actually shot him at the first round, and I shot over Aaron Burr's head, which he actually shot around and shot me in the abdomen, where I later succumbed to my wounds 2 hours later when I sailed back to New York. My final resting place is in Trinity Church in Wall Street and Broadway in Lower Manhattan. And here's a picture of my actual tomb. That is all. Does anybody have any questions?
You got your law degree in 6 months?
Yes.
That's impressive, sir.
Yes, it was.